Good morning, everyone. I welcome you to the Thursday, November 20th, 2025 City of Tumwater Public Works Committee meeting. Uh, Call to order. We have Councilmember Althauser, Councilmember Jefferson, and myself, Councilmember Swarthout in attendance. We don't have any minutes to approve. We're just going to jump right into the agenda. Do we have any? I don't think we have any changes to the agenda, so we'll just go ahead and jump in. Our first one on the list is the service provider agreement with Fair and Pierce for vehicle miles traveled gap analysis. And we have Alyssa Jones-Wood presenting. Good morning.
Good morning. I'll try to be quick with my two presentations. I know we have a packed agenda, but we're also trying to be really strategic about time. This is a presentation, like Councilmember Swarthout said, on the service provider agreement proposed with Fair and Pierce for a vehicle miles traveled gap analysis. There's a long story how we got to this. We have the resolution that City Council passed about the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan. The 2024 Thurston Climate Mitigation Collaborative Annual Retreat selected this as the regional initiative for the 2025 year. But because comprehensive plans were in process, the executive committee approved delaying the regional initiative until 2026 to better align with working on hopefully comprehensive plans that are adopted instead of in draft mode. The Thurston Climate Mitigation Collaborative Community Advisory Work Group reviewed this project's scope of work, and they're excited about it. Recently, Council and the Mayor approved updated Thurston Climate Mitigation Collaborative Interlocal Agreement, which will allow regional initiatives to happen without additional interlocal agreements. This is one of those regional initiatives. And the City of Tumwater, in this turn, has the opportunity to be the contract holder and project manager for this regional initiative. Other jurisdictions have held the contracts and managed other regional initiatives in the past, and it is our turn. So we ran the solicitation, the competitive solicitation, and selected Fair and Pierce as the consultant to do the work. The objective of the project is to evaluate whether existing jurisdictional plans, practices, and policies are sufficient to meet established vehicle miles traveled reduction targets that are in the Thurston Climate Mitigation Plan, to identify what actions, both locally and regionally, are needed to close that gap, and to assess current strategies, summarize existing conditions and trends, and evaluate the scale of vehicle miles traveled generated in the different jurisdictions. Throughout Thurston County and in Olympia and Lacey and Tumwater, we have different land use patterns, and there will be differences between rural contexts and more suburban contexts. So the findings from this work will inform future updates to comprehensive plans, including both the transportation and climate elements and climate strategies, and just keep us moving forward on reducing greenhouse gas emissions as we have committed to. The total project costs are not to exceed $65,000. This was wrapped up in the budget for the Thurston Climate Mitigation Collaborative biennium budget, and we have allocated funding to it in the city council or in the city budget. City of Tumwater will hold the contract and manage the project, but we will be splitting the costs equally. We will pay up front as Tumwater and get reimbursed by each of the jurisdictions, a total of $16,250 per jurisdiction. That will be the per jurisdiction cost. So the recommended action this morning is to please motion to put the service provider agreement with Fair and Pierce for the vehicle miles traveled gap analysis on the December 2nd, 2025 City Council consent agenda with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have. I realized I did that in 4 minutes. I thought it was going to take 10.
Myself on mute here. All right, council members, do we have any questions for Alyssa on this? So you're in charge of this already. You do this for the city staff already, that you're in charge of this program, the vehicle miles travel. Do we do that? All that?
The transportation and engineering team
Mhm.
leads a lot of that.
Mhm.
Recently, the transportation element of the comprehensive plan with some open positions in transportation and engineering. The community development team pitched in quite a bit of work.
Mhm.
And there's a requirement in HB 1181 that established the requirement for the climate element to reduce per capita vehicle miles traveled. So it doesn't fit in one particular box. It's interdepartmental work, and then it's interjurisdictional work for this too. So in part, but I'm not the main player in this. I will be getting support and review of any of these things by the actual technical experts on the teams. And we'll be doing interviews as part of the scope of work with people like Brandon and others who have more specific expertise in exactly what our transportation practices are.
Okay. Because I've seen this too, TRPC. I think
TRPC does stuff like this too.
Right. Okay. I think
Yep.
I've seen it there as well. So, okay. They're working on that as well. All right. Well, council members, do I need to read this again? I should ask. You already did it so succinctly. Do I need to read it? The recommended action into the. I'm looking for Karen if I have to read it again. No.
No, you don't.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We do have a recommended action before us. Are we in agreement to place the agreement on the December 2nd, 2025 city consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign?
So moved. Oh,
Okay.
I'll second Angela's motion.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, Alyssa, great.
Thank you.
Okay. And let's see, I get my agenda back up here. Come on. All right. And so we have our next up, we have the technical services agreement with King County for regional collaboration for better resilience outcomes in the Puget Sound Basin. And again, we will be listening. Alyssa will be presenting on this one.
Yep. This is a very technical name for us getting technical assistance through the small communities cohort of the Puget Sound Preparedness Collaborative, but that is the official name. I know that City Council has not adopted the climate element yet. This is implementing an action, a draft implementation action from the climate element. We had planned to do that anyway, but we have an opportunity that came before us for doing this at no cost to the city, which we jumped on. And hopefully the City Council and the Mayor and Public Works Committee will be in support of. So the reason why we're doing this is we have the City Council strategic priority to be a leader in environmental health and sustainability. And the climate element, again, yet to be formally adopted by City Council. It does have an action, CL 3.1.1, conduct a vulnerability assessment that considers climate impacts to communities, physical assets, and Tumwater operations and services, including impacts from extreme heat and flooding. This action then has a bunch of cascading actions that are based on the results that we find that are also in the climate element. So this would be the first step of us really determining a vulnerability of city assets and other aspects of our community. So climate change vulnerability, I realize vulnerability is a word that we use in a lot of different ways, from emotions to finances. This is the particular framework developed by the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change to use these three aspects that combine together for vulnerability. So I'll define them, and I have a quick example that's related to food. Exposure is the presence of assets, services, resources, and infrastructure that could be adversely affected by climate hazards. Climate hazards being things like extreme heat, flooding, sea level rise, smoke, wildfires, and smoke related to wildfires for existence. So exposure, we're exposed. To what level are we exposed? Sensitivity is the degree to which the system or population is affected by climate-related hazards. So how much is that exposure disrupting us or disturbing us or having more severe impacts? Adaptive capacity is the ability of a system to adjust to climate change, including variability in extremes, to moderate potential damages, take advantage of opportunities, or to cope with the consequences. And those three together, how we're exposed, how we're sensitive, and how we might have systems that make us stronger or weaker, come together to form vulnerability, the degree to which a system is susceptible to or unable to cope with the adverse effects of climate change. And because I keep getting asked if I'm doing more food metaphors, I decided to have a food metaphor. So in this instance, we're assessing peanut vulnerability. We're in a Texas roadhouse that has peanuts everywhere. We are exposed. We are sensitive because we have a peanut allergy, but we have adaptive capacity by having an EpiPen on board. So this is the degree to which we would be affected by peanuts in this particular case. This will obviously, the study will not be focused on peanuts. It'll be focused on climate hazards, well, depending on your allergy to peanuts, could be just as serious. But just an example to show exposure, sensitivity, and adaptive capacity. So some of the project details, we will be looking at kind of any and every climate hazard that could affect City of Tumwater. Extreme heat, changes in precipitation, changes in intensity and frequency of extreme rainfall events, sea level rise, wildfire, smoke exposure, and changes to snowpack. We are going to be looking at assets that include people in the community, which is an unusual thing for vulnerability assessments, but I think a very important thing. Built assets, natural assets, city operations and services. So we'll be looking at how exposed are these, how sensitive, how adaptive. We will engage the staff and the public. The major deliverable will be yet another plan that will be very helpful for us moving forward. It'll be a Tumwater specific climate change vulnerability assessment and adaptation plan. And time and resources permitting, the folks working on this will also provide draft language to incorporate in future updates to our hazard mitigation plan or decision support tools. So I've gotten this question, so I just wanted to get ahead of it. How does this differ from the Thurston Regional Planning Council adaptation plan? The city was involved in the development of this, but it was ultimately not adopted by the city. It was adopted by TRPC and not by any of the jurisdictions. The work for our vulnerability assessment adaptation plan will be city specific and be inclusive of city assets. And this adaptation plan from TRPC is actually kind of old at this point. So this will be our study and our plan will be utilizing best available science that's available now, not from 2016 or 2017 when this was developed. So some of the benefits we're getting from this technical services agreement is we get 1/3 of a full-time employee from King County and NOAA. We get technical assistance for NOAA staff from anywhere in the entire agency, federal agency, whenever we need help. We have an allocation of $32,708 for professional consulting services for anything that the King County or NOAA staff can't do by themselves. And we had allocated in the budget $25,000 for a city match for matching with Department of Commerce funds that we expect. And $80,000, this is a confusing thing. We were told that we would get access to the $80,000 in 2026. Department of Commerce changed their mind. Now it might be 27 or 28, but we allocated match. So the bottom line is we get to do this work. We get to have the benefits of this work at no cost to the city, which allows us to use that $80,000 from Commerce whenever we get it for other climate related planning work, and we're saving $25,000 of city funding.
Wow.
So I have a recommended action to place the technical services agreement with King County for the regional collaboration for better resilience outcomes in the Puget Sound Basin on the December 2nd, 2025 City Council consent agenda with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign. If you would, please.
I have a question for you.
Yes, yes.
I like that you're proactive and you jump on these opportunities when they arise. So how do you find out about them? Is there a website that you go to? Do they email you?
I actually learned about this from a couple different places. So the city is a member of an organization called the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. And that is a network, like a professional network of people in my kind of role throughout North America. And they send a weekly digest of all the different funding opportunities that are relevant to my work, as well as relevant to other departments' work. And I make sure that I forward that along to any departments. If there's transportation grants, I send that. If there's brownfields grants, I send that. So I get a really, really great digest of opportunities. This wasn't technically a grant for us. It was a technical services agreement. And this actually came to us from my counterpart at Olympia, who was active at the Puget Sound Preparedness Collaborative. Because we hadn't really done a lot of adaptation work in Tumwater, I hadn't been committing time to going, but Olympia has. They learned about this. They shared it with the others in the Thurston Regional or Thurston Climate Mitigation Collaborative. And it was specifically for small cities. So we were the only one that really had the ability to apply. And we applied and were selected. So there's all sorts of different networks that are at play. And I try to make sure that I open every email that has anything to do with funding or technical services. And this was one that seemed to work out.
All right. Good work, Alyssa. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the partnership that we have with the other jurisdictions as well. You guys, it's been such a good partnership. Let's see. And so is this one that the Spark is working?
Nope, the Civic Spark, I think, is below the threshold that needs to come to Public Works Committee, but
well, I
our
was
city
wondering
attorney
if
can.
one of the projects that they'll be working on. No?
Yes, so we are in the process of reviewing a contract with an organization called Civic Spark, which is a program of AmeriCorps and the Pacific Health Initiative. We also applied for that and were awarded. We did allocate funding in the city budget to pay for the cost share for the host site, but we will have a pending formal approval of the contract from the city attorney. They're going back and forth with changes now. We will have a full-time fellow for 8 months. That will help with a lot of this adaptation work. Assisting me on the staff side for this vulnerability assessment will be one of their duties, as well as a number of others that are also in the climate element of the comprehensive plan. So we'll be having some additional capacity in my division to help us move forward. But not approved 100% yet, but.
Yeah, but I appreciate we had talked about that. So this is really amazing. So thank you. All right. Do we have any other questions for Alyssa on this one?
No, with that, I'd like to make a motion that we place the technical services agreement with King County for the regional collaboration for better resilience outcomes in the Puget Sound Basin on the December 2nd, 2025 city consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much, Alyssa. This is really great work. This is amazing. You're a wizard. You truly are. All right. So the next one we have up is the service provider agreement with Corello Engineers for the 2025 Sanitary Sewer Comprehensive Plan update. And good morning, Patrick.
Good morning. Let me see if I can start sharing my screen here.
Yeah, here. We need to, oh gosh. Dude. This one. No. Okay. Continue.
Thank you. Okay, you seeing that correctly?
Yes.
I needed Alyssa's help on that one, so sorry about
I
that.
didn't know you all could hear me doing my dues, so I apologize for that.
Well, I appreciate your help, Alyssa. Thank you. So what we have this morning is a service provider agreement with Corello Engineers to help the city update our 2025 comprehensive sewer plan. I'm Patrick Soderberg, program manager for water resources and sustainability. And we're going to have a recommendation to approve this, and we'll get back to that at the very end. So the objectives of the sewer plan update is we have to meet the state requirement to update a sewer plan, to develop one and update it whenever we need to expand or construct or modify any of our sewer system or collection facilities. Our last update was about 10 years ago. So we are doing this again, and it should help us design and plan for future growth in the city and be able to sustain the sewer system to accommodate all of our growth. And this process will help us evaluate our current system and see what we need to do to financially prepare, as well as operation and maintenance on our current system to have a good plan to move forward. We went out to put out a request for qualifications in the spring of 2025, and we had two firms that we interviewed, and Carollo Engineers was our selected firm. We have worked with Carollo Engineers in this specific project team on numerous projects, and they went very well. They just finished a project for our source development for our drinking water supply, and it had a financial model and how we can grow into our drinking water system and what things to plan for. And that project went very well. They're currently performing a project for developing our hydraulic model for our drinking water system. So that's to evaluate how our piping distribution system, how the flow goes through it based on the construction of our drinking water system, and that helps us predict for planning for future development and where we might have constrictions and where we need to grow into the system. And so we've been working very well with Carollo on that project, and they have a lot of background doing these sewer comp plans for various cities throughout Washington and Oregon. So they do have some really good qualifications to perform this work. The scope of work that has been identified for the development of this plan, it includes they will manage the project and keep track of all of the invoicing and meetings and project planning and the project document development. The planning considerations, they'll review all of our existing plans that we have for our policies and standards for our sewer system and what we plan for level of service, operation, design. And then I'm going to explain a little bit more about the hydraulic model update, existing system, collection system analysis, and operations and maintenance, because it's, I think, a little bit easier to discuss those all together. What they do is they begin with trying to predict the amount of flow that will be expected to come into our system in different areas of the city. So they look at what parts of our city are already developed and built out, and how much of that area is undeveloped and could be developed and therefore have more flow into that area of the system. And then what they do is they create these basins where they can monitor flow through a lift station or a particular point where the collection system comes together, and then they can predict how much flow is in that area already, and then they compare a dry season to a wet season. And what they do is they look at the capacity. They're trying to determine how much capacity each one of those areas have, so that we can figure out what types of repair may need to go on, what type of replacement of pipes or existing systems to keep up with the capacity and the growth that we predict for those areas. The hydraulic model, which kind of looks like that skeleton on the right, that's what a septic system might look like, or not a septic system, sorry, a sewer system piping network would look like underground. So they will go and evaluate, create a hydraulic model that will demonstrate how the flow of that wastewater will go through those pipes based on the size, based on the tilt of the flow elevation changes that they have in there. Do you have a question? I can't hear you.
Yes, Patrick, I do have a question for you. So this looks like a pretty extensive, big project. So is the engineer coming in going to have space in your office? How would that work? Is it for like a couple of months? Tell me how that works.
No, this project will take over a couple years to do. They will work extensively with our engineers and our GIS team to get all of this information that they'll need to know about our system. Literally down to the pipes and valves and lift stations and every component that we have, so that it can be evaluated to determine how it functions, how well it flows, what the capacity is, and where those limitations might be for future growth. And that will come together in, in operations and maintenance section of that report.
All right. Thanks, Patrick.
You bet. So another aspect of what they do is there's something that's called infiltration and inflow. And what that is the reason that they do the evaluation for capacity in both a dry and wet season is, if you can, I think these were the two nicest pictures I could find for any sort of sewer talk, but you can see how water can get into your system when it rains. So through little holes in the sewer caps where, they remove the lid from, or this picture on the right demonstrates that when these pipes are underground and we get high groundwater, what can happen is that's a picture of a little leak where you can see a stream of water coming into the pipe from the outside. So if you imagine water coming into your system during the wet season, that will limit the amount of capacity that you have. And so you compare when it's dry and your predicted flow, and when it's rainy and wet, and how much that changes. Those areas that get a significant increase in flow probably have more repair work that needs to be done and replacement. So that's where you may want to prioritize sending a camera in those, clean them out, sending a camera in, looking for breaks, looking for leakages. That's all part of the repair and replacement. And that's how they do this risk-based system to develop the operation and maintenance program for the upkeep of this system. So they kind of prioritize area based on the inflow and infiltration that they can perceive during these testing times. And that will go into the operation maintenance and then into the CIP for planning for those sort of tasks to be done. So then it goes into the financial model and the capital improvement plan. So they will develop a capital improvement plan for us that takes into account all of those repairs and operations and maintenance and what they project to be done in a systematic process. It will have that prioritization based on that risk model. They'll have cost estimates for that replacement and maintenance. And then they'll do a financial analysis of how much does it cost to do all of those things. They will review our existing billing structure. They'll determine the revenue requirements to maintain the system over time, and they will develop a 5-year rate schedule based on that and a rate model for it. So then after that, they will develop our plan, and all of that is an estimated cost not to exceed $474,416 over the next approximately about 30 months is what they have projected for the timeline. And this has been included in our 2025-2026 sanitary sewer fund, which the budget has been approved. So a recommended action today is to place the service provider agreement with Carollo Engineers for the 2025 comprehensive sewer plant update on the December 2nd, 2025 council consent calendar, with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign. And if you have any additional questions, I can take them.
Sorry, I muted myself again. So this will be mapping like Tumwater Hill, and I know that we talked about going under I-5. Will this be checking the sewers lines that run under I-5 as well? Then
So that has absolutely been verified that they will pay close attention to that. We've actually brought that out number of times in our conversation because we know that that could be a very limiting factor of the system.
that'll be interesting to see how they do that one. So, yeah. Well, I know it's just a camera that goes underneath, right? So, and then will this plot out because there's areas that we don't currently service. So, but we already know those places. That's already been mapped out. The places that we have an opportunity to extend our sewer services. Is that this mapping doesn't have anything to do with where we know that we have opportunities to currently extend
Well,
our
what they will
service.
do is they will evaluate system capacity so that we can determine where we can grow into and what would limit us to grow into those places. And then if we have an area that would be limited, then there would be recommendations on what could be done to expand into those areas, what types of repair and replacement might need to be done to accommodate growth in those particular areas.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay, good. All right.
Just wanted to add to that. I can't figure out why my camera. Oh, there we go. So yeah, when they do this analysis, they're really looking at kind of build out conditions based on zoning. And so, once they have an understanding of what we could be having in these areas, then they'll help us determine what the pipe sizes are, what would be needed, if there's any additional lift stations that would be needed. And those become kind of future projects, whether the city is looking at extending its own, doing the project on its own, or working with development community to install those features. But that's how we would get the idea of well, we know we need a 12-inch line here or a 16-inch line here or whatnot. And so that's all part of that analysis, plus the existing network to make sure that it has sufficient capacity, and where it doesn't, those would become deficiencies that we'd be looking at including into the CIP, as Patrick noted.
Because I know there's people that are interested in city water and sewer being run down 70th, if we can, and what that. So with this type of study would let us know the cost and impact as far as running.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, I mean, it would give us a ballpark idea of what the cost is when the project actually goes. Then we would have to do a kind of re-engineer the cost of that.
Okay. And those are the kinds of costs that we use when they go to a development review. Then we kind of have that because the developer helps pay for that as well. And
correct.
Okay.
The developer actually, in most cases, the developer is actually building the system for the city and then dedicating it to us. And then the developer could take advantage of like latecomer agreements, things along those lines that would help reimburse for costs that would be not necessarily total responsibility of the project itself.
Okay, appreciate that. So this will take care of some of those orange pipes that are up on Tumwater Hill. So.
Well, that's part of, we do have some education that we're looking to get out here shortly for folks to help them.
Yeah, she's looking for that, So yes. So yes, well, I appreciate this. Well, this is great. So we do have a recommended action before us to place this on the December 2nd, 2025 consent calendar with a recommendation to approve and authorize the mayor to sign.
So move.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, Patrick. Good work.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And next one up. Okay. We do have Brandon, and you're not in your car. Did we make it, or do you have to leave?
No, we made it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
All right. So, well, good morning, council members. I'm here to discuss R20, or it should be, I think so Karen, you might have to hop in. I don't recall if it's a resolution or an ordinance. I believe it's a ordinance, but 2025-015 eminent domain authorization for X Street roundabout. And I'm not going to worry about resolution or ordinance because there's no action today on this item. It's just informational before we come to council.
Actually, it will need a motion to move to council, please, and it is an ordinance. So. Okay.
Well, thank you, Karen. I'm glad you're here. So ordinance, and we will have a action at the end. I'm going to start my slideshow. Okay. So before I go into detail about the actual condemnation ordinance or authorization, I'm going to quickly go over some of the project elements. This is the fourth project that has come out of the Capitol Boulevard Corridor Plan, which we started back in 2013. It took several years to get complete, and it was a partnership with Thurston Regional Planning Council. And really what the corridor plan was about, it was trying to address safety, congestion, and multimodal improvements along the corridor, in addition to trying to help revitalize the corridor. So this particular project, again, it's the fourth project that has come out of the plan, with the first three being the feasibility study, which brought the planning document into a more engineering setup in order to determine whether or not it was even possible. And then there was the corridor design project, which we completed a couple years ago, and it involved bringing a couple of the individual projects from the plan to 100% design, and then several others to about 60% design. And then the construction project that we've completed is the I-5 Trosper Road Capitol Boulevard reconfiguration project. So again, this is the fourth one. It's the X Street Roundabout. The cost for the X Street Roundabout is about $6.8 million. And then 2.8 of that, $2.8 million is for the right-of-way phase that we are currently in. We have received 5 separate grants from Thurston Regional Planning Council, totaling $5.4 million for this project. And they are all federal grants. And then the schedule is on the screen. As mentioned, we did the planning efforts between 2013 and 2017, and that's really when we first started talking to property owners. So most of these owners, the ones that haven't been sold, have been aware of the project for over 10 years. We designed it between 2019 and 2023, and we are currently in the right-of-way phase, aiming for construction obligations starting next summer. So now for the reason that I'm actually here, it's ordinance. There you go. I had it right on this slide. Ordinance number 2025-015. I will start by saying that when we as a city accept federal funding on transportation projects, it is expected that we will use eminent domain to acquire the property rights needed if we're not able to obtain them through standard negotiations. It is one of those things where if you're not willing to do it, then don't apply for the grant. And it's always that way with federal funding. So this ordinance is the final action by council, which authorizes use of condemnation to acquire the property rights needed. And then RCW requires this action to take place at a public meeting. So we'll have the public meeting, and then we would begin the condemnation process as soon as possible, because we do have a funding timeline constraint on this project. We have to be ready to bid the project by June. So we do have to start early. However, we're already in conversations. We've now been in contact with all of the property owners within the last couple of months. And then some of them, again, we've been talking to for over 10 years. In fact, I had a couple one-on-one meetings with the more impacted property owners about 4 years ago. Yeah, it would have been 2021. And then what this does also is it informs the affected property owners about the scope and the reasons for the particular project, and starts, we start to inform them of everything. And then again, we're going to continue to negotiate, even though we're starting this condemnation process. Everything's going as normal, going to continue to negotiate, try to get the property rights through just good faith efforts, but we will be set up to acquire them if needed through eminent domain. So just quick summary. This is very high level. It's not going to have any of Karen's language. I put it as if I didn't understand condemnation or relocation. What would be the best way to quickly describe it? It does sound bad when you hear condemnation or eminent domain. It's got this bad sound to it. And a lot of that has to do with people losing properties that they had no interest in losing for things like it could have been passed down through families and things like that. So a lot of the times when it's somebody's residence, it becomes a little bit more personal. In this particular project, they're all commercial properties. These are all businesses that are impacted. And I'll show you on, I don't know if it's the next slide or a couple slides from now, I'll show you exactly what the impacts are to each property. But just real quick, when we do start condemnation or eminent domain, and I use them interchangeably, it does establish protections and benefits for the property owners that are legally required under the Uniform Relocation Act and state RCW. We go through and we get appraisals. We hire appraisers that do appraisals of all of the properties and any damages that are caused by the project. And then there's also a second appraiser hired to review that appraisal. So we really make sure that the appraisals are good, and we're hands off. They're sub-consulted from a consultant, so it's very disconnected. They just tell us this is what it's worth, and then another professional says if they agree or don't. We hire right-of-way agents who are licensed and certified to work with the property owners. They're on certification lists through the state. They work with the property owners to talk about the impacts, to kind of do the negotiations, help them with questions, assist with all the paperwork. And then again, by invoking or by using condemnation in eminent domain, the rules that come with it, the property owners get a lot of help sort of walking through the processes. There's a statutory allowance to help for their own attorney fees that they could hire to review some of our work. It's not a big number, but it's something. And then if any of our projects impact the way that a site works, like the way that vehicles travel through a parking lot or parking spaces or anything like that, we also pay for those damages. And I guess as a good example, I don't know if you recall the way the Dutch Brothers used to look there at the northeast corner of I-5 and Capitol Boulevard and Trosper. The entire site had to be reoriented. All of the parking had to be redone. The drive-through had to be redone. That was actually paid for by the city. When we went through and acquired the property, it messed with their site. And so we had to design a new layout that worked for them, and then get a quote from a private contractor, and we paid them the cost that we got from the quote. And so they then hired the contractor to redo the whole site. So they come out of it, ready to operate again. Oh. The other thing that happens with eminent domain is if we do end up having to go through the court process with eminent domain, the appraisals that we obtain for the property, we cannot offer any less than what's on the appraisal. And so once they get that, they have an offer. If there's a market crash and the value of their property just completely tanks, we still have to offer what that appraisal was. And if the market booms and all of a sudden their property is worth a lot more than what we offered, we have to get a new appraisal and offer them the higher amount. So it eliminates the market risk from them as well. Now, most of the time when we go through acquiring property, there isn't a full relocation. We don't end up with a whole lot of full property takes. But when we do, they have all the same benefits that they're above.
Brandon, I got a question for you.
Yes, please go ahead.
So were these appraisals done 3 or 4 years ago? Because the market has changed for real estate.
They're current. So
they're current.
Yep.
All right.
The appraisals are all freshly done, getting reviewed, just about ready to make offers. So they're very current.
Thank you.
Yep. So again, with relocation, they have all the same, it's all the same process that I talked about up above, but then if somebody does need to be relocated, not only do they get the full appraised value and all of those benefits, we then, or our right-of-way agents then research for suitable relocation sites. So we have to make sure that there is actually a place for them to go that is comparable. And they have to be available. So those ones that we find, they potentially could just move into or purchase those new locations. We pay for moving expenses like movers and things like that. And then we also pay to help them get reestablished. So if they need new business cards, new uniforms for a new address, new decals on their vehicles or signs, that is all paid for. And within the last couple of months, that used to be limited to $50,000, which is a lot of money and does cover a lot of business reestablishment. But there are certain circumstances where it wouldn't. That is raised to $250,000. So ultimately, the businesses are going to be able to reestablish using those funds that are available. So now going into this specific project, on this slide, we do have an aerial image of the X Street roundabout and then some colors showing where there are property impacts. Now, the red shaded areas are where the city is acquiring full rights. So we're obtaining full legal ownership of those particular areas. And then the orange shaded areas are where we are just obtaining easements for constructability reasons or for PSE to reconnect the buildings to power because we are undergrounding the power as part of this project as well. So all those poles and aerial lines are going to be underground. Now you can see there is one full acquisition. I'm gonna pull up the little pointer and it's not gonna work. Okay, well, I might just bail on this and we'll say, there we go. So right here, this is a full acquisition, a full take. It is two parcels, but it's one business. This parcel right here is just parking for the business. Now that one has to be acquired in full because the roundabout itself is physically into the building, so the building has to be demolished. And then this is the natural location for a storm facility. So this is where the stormwater will go. It's the lowest elevation in the natural flow of the water. We did intend initially to use a regional facility. However, the rules have changed and we have to infiltrate the water on site. So when we do projects right now, you're going to see a lot more on-site storm than just going into the pipes and going to a regional facility, which does mean that there's going to be more property needed when we do projects that are in developed areas. Now, the rest of these, again, these are just strip takes. They're pretty typical. We come in and we rebuild the frontage. They're not losing the whole site. Most of these are pretty minimal in impact. This one right here, we are taking where their heat pump is, so they're getting a brand new heat pump out of the project. It's going to be moved. This one here, this is the old bakery. It's Town and Country Roofing right now. We are actually doing quite a bit of we have to do quite a bit of changes because we're actually eliminating their parking on the front of their building. So this is going to kind of be like the Dutch Brothers example where we're going to hire a contractor to come in and bid or give us a quote for reorienting the site. And then we're going to end up paying this owner for that work. I've spoken with the owner several times. He's excited about the project because he recognizes the benefits of the aesthetics, the value to the property that they obtain afterwards. And he likes the way that the site's going to get reoriented. And then, of course, the full take, though, is going to be the most difficult one. I met with the property owner first. So again, we worked with them back in 2013 through 2017 through planning, but I personally met with the owner in 2021, and he seemed amenable to the project. It wasn't news to him, and then he wasn't aware about what relocation was. And when I kind of explained it to him what the process would look like, at that time he was excited because he owns other property in Tumwater, and he sort of recognized that it's not often that you drive down the street and decide, you know what, I want to get a heat pump today. So he realized the value of this property in an urban corridor. It didn't really fit the business model that he has. So he, at that time, was considering moving to his other land that he owns in Tumwater. He actually owns a couple businesses in Tumwater. So hopefully that's the route that he takes, but we are going to research other already established sites, and ultimately it'll be up to him. So on this slide, and I'm actually already almost done, but on this slide, This is the typical property acquisition process. We put together a letter, inform the property owners, go through and do the appraisals, the review appraisals I described, and then we put together offers. This is the stage that we're at right now. Normally, if we don't have a tight timeline due to funding constraints or safety or emergency reasons, we would start working through negotiations and, spend a reasonable amount of time trying to get all of the property acquired without starting the eminent domain process. However, when we do have constraints such as funding or safety and things like that, we do have to sort of push the timeline forward. The last time we had to do this was on the I-5 Trosper project. And so that's what we have to do right now. So we're going to be presenting the offers and concurrently going through this action at the same time. Hopefully, we're able to obtain everything through standard negotiations. The one property being a full take, it could be difficult. It's hard to know for sure, but hopefully we can obtain them all just through standard negotiations. And again, that's it. So I do have an action. I'm going to try to find it while you all are asking questions so that I can put it up on the screen because for some reason I had in my notes that there was no action and that the action was taking place at council. So if you have any questions, please just go ahead and jump in while I'm looking for the exact wording of the action.
Oh, thank you, Brandon. I appreciate your presentation there and walking us through the process of this. So it is something that we don't do have to do often, but we will be doing this. And so I appreciate your work in this, that we will be making the owner whole and more than whole. It looks like that they do have because we'd had some criticism before on the other project that we're taking businesses and stuff, but that's not the truth at all. That there's a very prescribed process that's involved in this, and so yes, it
is one of those things that it has a bad reputation, and don't get me wrong, it's not like it's not a nuisance. If you own property and if it goes to the relocation part, it is clearly a nuisance, but from a financial standpoint, the goal is we're going to make them.
We make them whole. Well, council members, I can read the action. I do have it here, Brandon, if you'd like me to read it for you. So
certainly, and I have it here if you'd want it on the screen.
Okay. So we do have a recommended action to place ordinance number O-2025-015 eminent domain for X Street on the December 2nd, 2025 City Council consideration calendar with a recommendation to adopt.
I second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. So December 2nd is filling up. So thank you for your presentation, Brandon, and your work on this.
Of course.
All right. And we have one more here. We have a resolution number another resolution, R 2025-020, the Craft District Development Agreement Amendment number 4. And Brandon, you're up.
All right. Well, I think I've got everything written correctly on this introductory slide. So again, Brandon Hicks, and today I'll be talking about the Craft District Development Agreement Amendment number 4. I will preface this with saying it's kind of a boring amendment. It's just a term extension, so we're just adding a year. This will be the 3rd time that we've done an extension like this. We've actually done 4 extensions, but one of the amendments actually had substantive changes to the agreement as well. And so this will be pretty quick and probably not a whole lot of new information for you. As a quick refresher, Craft District Development is located it's about a 5.6 acre site on Capitol Boulevard. It's near E Street, Tumwater Valley Drive. The development is built primarily around the South Puget Sound Community College's craft brewing and distilling program. And then the identity of the district, it is morphing a little bit over time, but it's centered on craft brewing cider and distilling, and it's definitely getting very food oriented at the moment as well. So far, this is some of the highlights of the development progress to date. So the building that houses SPSCC's program has been complete for several years. The roadwork, of which the city participated in through the development agreement, is complete as well. They've done the frontage work on Capitol Boulevard, in addition to relocating Tumwater Valley Drive. The market building has been open for a couple years now, and they've got several tenants. And I think all of you kind of know all of the tenants. It's too many to list right here for a quick presentation. And then there's also development of Lot 4, which y'all haven't seen any action on. It's the parcel that's south of Tumwater Valley Drive. There was for a while a push from Craft District to try to put in some apartments there. It's been on hold because the market conditions have changed, and it's not really a viable project at the moment, but it is still a component of the development agreement. So why the city is involved? The city entered into the development agreement for many reasons. Primarily, it'd be social and economic benefits that are really difficult to quantify. You know, there are immediate jobs and tax revenue, but probably the biggest one that makes it hard to quantify is that it creates energy that has sort of made redevelopment of the brewery as a whole more attractive to potential development. So it really is, for lack of a better way of saying it, it's about bringing energy back to the brewery, and it's been doing its job because there's been a lot more interest of late.
Brandon, I got a question. Do you think that we're going to extend it another time, or do you think this is the last time for extension?
It'll probably be extended at least one more time.
So the time frame is a year?
Yes.
So every year we just extend it again until mission complete then?
Yeah, and we could extend it for a longer term. I think right now we're sticking to a year because hopefully within the next couple months we're going to be able to work through joint parking agreements and other items. And so there was no reason. We're going to be focusing on very specific things this year. So hopefully we can get those done. And then if there's any modifications to the development agreement by year end, we'll be set up for that.
All right, thanks.
And then just to wrap it up, I guess I was going to say that the Craft District is going to continue to be a destination for people from outside the area. And then it's just something for local Tumwater folks to do. The development agreement itself, you know, the city component of it is focused on public infrastructure that is being or has been constructed as part of this development. And so things like the water system extension, the relocation of Tumwater Valley Drive, construction of a portion of the Deschutes Valley Trail, which is going to happen in the future. Here are the 4 amendments, and like I said, 3 of them were focused on time extensions, and then the second amendment was really where the scope of the development agreement changed quite a bit. It added in like Lot 4, some of the housing conditions, underground conversion for power, trail construction parameters, and things like that. So, but again, this one is just time extension. There hasn't been a significant change in, I guess, a timeline for when lots are going to be built out. The market hasn't really improved drastically. It's been kind of a tough few years. You know, when this whole thing started, it seemed pretty realistic that this thing could develop out pretty quickly. But as you know, the market just changed very rapidly after the original agreement. Again, I mentioned this, but we are going to be working on a shared parking agreement. Hopefully we'll get that lined out here in the next couple months. And then there's also an amphitheater agreement that'll we'll have to work through at some point in the near future. These are both mentioned in the development agreement. They're just not components to it. They're separate agreements. And so it's yet to be determined exactly what those look like, but there's a team of us at the city that are kind of looking at it and working with craft. And so that's it for my presentation. I do have the action on the screen, and I can take any questions right after Karen says what I missed.
I apologize. I didn't catch this before it went into your packet, but this actually needs to be scheduled for a public hearing, not on consideration.
Oh, okay.
So recommended action with that change.
So it'll be on, we'll schedule for a public hearing then on December 2nd. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious about the shared parking because I know we've been talking about that because the parking up there is just, we love to be loved, but man, it gets busy up there, doesn't it? As far as the craft district, and then
it does. The shared parking agreement I'm referring to wouldn't really address that. All that does is it outlines the parking agreement for the old Tumwater Valley Drive alignment where they've constructed parking. It establishes essentially the guidelines for use of that. There has been conversation about off-site parking for like use of the amphitheater and things like that. That's more work that has to happen in the future.
Okay. Yeah, because for me, it's like parking, you're going to put 1,000 people and where are we going to park them? So yeah, so I appreciate that. So, okay, but that's in the future. You don't have to worry about it now. Okay, got it. Okay, so before us then, we have a recommended action that the Public Works Committee place resolution number R 2025-020 Craft District Development Agreement Amendment number 4 on the December 2nd, 2025 City Council agenda as a public hearing, scheduled as a public hearing. And do we say that we have a recommendation to adopt?
That's
or just scheduled as a public hearing?
If you are recommending adoption, that's fine to include it or not.
Okay.
We'll still be passing it at the same meeting. It's just we have to have a hearing before we consider it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so place it on the schedule for a public hearing at the December 2nd, 2025 City Council meeting.
With a recommendation
with a recommendation to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Wow, December 2nd is just filling up, you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, gosh and golly. I know you guys always think we have to do this in an hour, but you managed to do it in an hour. So good for you. We got a lot covered today. So we don't have any other additional items for discussion here. All right. Well, with that then, I will call the Thursday, November 20th, 2025 City of Tumwater Public Works Committee meeting adjourned. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.